Is the rapture really next month? The Bible's timeline is shocking. Is the rapture really happening on September 23rd, 2025? Many have asked that question recently. You will be shocked when you find 3 reasons many people believe Jesus is returning in September. But I'll warn you, once you see this, you may never look at prophecy the same way again. What if everything people think they know about the rapture is just a distraction? Reason 1. The feast that no one knows. Jesus said in Matthew 24:36, "But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only." For centuries, people have taken this to mean, don't even try to figure it out. Stop watching. Stop paying attention. But now, many believe that's not what Jesus meant at all. They believe his words were not random. They were not vague. They were pointing straight to something his Jewish audience would have instantly recognized. Could we have misunderstood Jesus' warning while prophecy was shouting the truth all along? And once you understand this, the September 23rd prophecy starts to make sense. Was he describing a feast? A specific feast, the Feast of Trumpets. Why was it called the feast? No one knows the day or the hour. Here's a fascinating fact. The Feast of Trumpets is the only Jewish feast that begins on the new moon. And in ancient times, you couldn't just pull out your phone, open an app, and say, "Oh, the new moon is at 7:42 p.m." No. Back then, the start of the feast wasn't predicted. It had to be witnessed. 2 men would stand, watching the dark sky for the first thin sliver of the moon to appear. If clouds blocked the sky, the sighting could be delayed. That meant you didn't know if the feast would begin on the first expected day or the second. That's why the Feast of Trumpets became known as the feast no one knows the day or the hour. And now, suddenly, Jesus' words take on a whole new meaning. What if Jesus' most mysterious phrase was actually his clearest warning? We're just beginning to see how deep this prophetic signal goes. The Feast of Trumpets is also tied to the blowing of trumpets. Over 100 blasts in a single day, culminating in the last trumpet. And what did Paul say in 1 Corinthians 15:52? In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed. Do you see it? The rapture imagery isn't hidden. It's staring us in the face. The trumpet blast, the last trumpet, the feast no one knows the day or the hour. This isn't symbolic anymore. This is specific. And it's soon. Is this the moment prophecy stops hinting and starts shouting? Stick around. What's coming next makes it even clearer. We haven't even hit the deepest part of this mystery yet. And here's where things get intense. In 2025, the Feast of Trumpets falls on September 23rd through the 24th. That's the exact same feast many scholars believe will launch Daniel's 70th week. Could one ancient feast hold the exact date of the rapture? Now, let me ask you a chilling question. If the rapture were to happen during this feast, would you be ready? Or would you be asleep when the trumpet sounded? What if the end arrives while you're distracted, unprepared, or unaware? Because here's the progression. The trumpet blasts were meant to wake the people from spiritual sleep. They were a call to repentance and holiness, and they reminded Israel that judgment was coming soon. Fun fact, in Jewish tradition, the Feast of Trumpets is also seen as a rehearsal for the final judgment. That's why it's called Yom Teruah, the day of shouting or the day of blasting. So what happens when you line up this feast? The idiom, "no one knows the day or the hour," the imagery of the trumpet blast, and the exact dates of September 23rd to 24th, 2025, all at the same time, it's almost as if prophecy is whispering, "Pay attention. Don't miss this." And yet, the Feast of Trumpets is only the beginning, because the next revelation will shock even the most seasoned prophecy watcher. Reason 2. The mystery of 6,000 years. For centuries, believers have whispered about a mystery, an ancient timeline woven into creation itself. And what if that timeline ends now? If this timeline is right, we are moments from midnight. It's the belief that human history follows the same pattern God set in the very beginning. And if this mystery is true, then the world may already be standing at the edge of its final moments. Did God hide humanity's end date inside creation's beginning? Let's go back to the very first week. Genesis tells us God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days. On the seventh day, He rested. Simple enough, right? But then we read 2 Peter 3:8, and Peter gives us a key. With the Lord a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. The early church fathers took this seriously. Ancient rabbis did too. They believed the creation week was more than history. It was prophecy. 6 days of work symbolized 6,000 years of mankind's rule on earth. The seventh day of rest symbolized a seventh millennium, 1,000 years of peace, when Christ Himself would reign. Now here's where it gets intense. If Adam's creation marks the beginning of day 1, then Jewish genealogies and biblical chronologies add up to about 4,000 years from Adam to Jesus. Scholars have wrestled with the numbers, but most agree it's about 4,000 years. Then from Jesus' time until today, nearly 2,000 years more have passed. Do the math. 4,000 plus 2,000 equals 6,000 years. 6 days are complete. 6 millennia have passed, which means, if this pattern is true, humanity is standing at the sunset of the 6th day. And if the sun is setting on the 6th day, then the dawn of the 7th is coming fast. But what is the 7th day? The Bible calls it the millennial reign of Christ. Revelation 20 describes it: 1,000 years where Satan is bound, judgment is given, and Jesus reigns as king over the nations. So let's pause for a moment. Could it really be this exact? Is the entire span of human history a giant prophetic week? Here's a mind-blowing fun fact. The Jewish Talmud itself, written by rabbis long before our time, teaches that the world will last 6,000 years before entering a 7,000-year day of rest. Early church writers like Irenaeus and Barnabas taught the same thing. They believed creation itself was a prophetic clock. And if that's the case, then right now, in our time, the clock is ticking to zero. Imagine humanity has been running a 6,000-year marathon, and now we're hearing the roar of the crowd at the finish line. The finish line isn't centuries away, it's right in front of us. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Many scholars believe we're not just close to the 6,000-year mark, we're already inside the final stretch. Some estimates place the current year at around 5,993 years since creation. That means only 7 short years remain until we reach 6,000. What happens when we cross that threshold? Will the 7th millennium begin with Christ's reign? Or will it begin with the darkest 7 years of tribulation the world has ever seen, leading into His return? Many note 6 days of labor, then rest. 6,000 years of humanity striving, sinning, rebelling. Then 1,000 years of peace. 6 days of creation, then one holy Sabbath. 6 millennia of man's kingdoms, then 1 millennium of God's kingdom. It's the same story, written in nature, history, and prophecy. Has God been writing the same countdown through every part of creation? And the stakes couldn't be higher. If we are at the end of the 6,000-year cycle, then what's about to unfold isn't just another chapter of history. It's the end of history as we know it. You're not just living through prophecy. You might be fulfilling it. What if we're the final generation and don't even know it yet? So, let's put it bluntly. If the 6,000-year mystery is real, then we are not waiting for centuries. We're not even waiting for decades. We are the generation alive at the turn of the age. And what does that mean for you? It means the decisions you make now matter more than ever. It means repentance isn't something you can push off until tomorrow. It means telling your friends, your family, your children isn't optional. Because the day is closing, the night is almost here. And when the trumpet sounds, it will be too late to prepare. So, now, people say, 6 days are over. The 7th is coming. The only question is, are you ready for it? Reason 3. The mystery of number 23. Numbers in Scripture are never accidents. God uses them as patterns, as warnings, and as signs to reveal what He's about to do. And one number that keeps flashing like a beacon through prophecy is the number 23. At first, you might shrug it off as coincidence, but when you see how often 23 shows up, both in Scripture and in history, you'll start to realize it might not be a coincidence at all. It might be a coded message. Let's start with the obvious: the Feast of Trumpets. In 2025 begins on September 23rd. That date alone makes prophecy watchers lean forward. But the connections don't stop there. Think of Psalm 23. It's one of the most famous passages in all the Bible. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. What does that sound like? A journey through the darkest valley, yet held by the shepherd's hand. Could it be pointing to the moment when the world enters the valley of tribulation? Now, here's where things escalate. In Jewish tradition, the number 23 is connected with judgment and transition. It's the line between death and new life, between endings and beginnings. But the math gets even crazier. When Israel became a nation in 1948, if you count forward 77 years, 7 being the number of completion, and 77 being a double stamp of divine fulfillment, you land on the year 2025. And right in the middle of that year's prophetic calendar sits September 23rd. Out of all the numbers, out of all the dates, why does 23 keep marking transition points in prophecy? Could September 23rd, 2025 mark the final transition, the moment history pivots from the age of grace to the age of judgment? If so, then Psalm 23 isn't just a comfort, it's a roadmap. It shows us that even though the world may walk into the valley of shadows, the shepherd will lead his flock to safety. But those who reject him, they'll enter the valley alone. However, September 23rd might not be the date you think it is. 88 reasons Jesus is coming back in 1988. October 21st, 2011 is the end of the world. December 21st, 2012 is the end of the world. Do those sound familiar? They should. These were actual predictions that people believed. Families sold their homes, people quit their jobs, millions braced themselves for the end. And then, nothing happened. Could a new deception be setting people up to fall even harder this time? Yet here we are again, Some are pointing to September 2025 as the month Jesus will return, and it's gaining momentum. But September 23rd might not be the day you think. Prophecy doesn't give exact dates. The first reason is simple and huge. The Bible never gives a day or hour for the rapture. That means no calculation from feast days can guarantee the year. No political event can lock down the month. No astronomical sign can circle the day. Yes, we are told to watch for seasons. Yes, there are clues for the tribulation timeline. But the rapture itself, we're told to live as if it could happen any moment. In 1988, a book called 88 Reasons Why the Rapture Will Be in 1988 sold 4.5 million copies. The date came and passed. Many walked away from faith because of it. If September 2025 comes and goes, will our faith go with it? Or will it trigger the great falling away that Scripture warned us was coming? Could focusing on a single month cause us to miss what God is doing right now? If we set a date and it fails, some will mock prophecy altogether. Since Jesus left, people have wanted to know exactly when he will return. Even the disciples asked him, "Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel?" Acts 1:6. But Jesus answered, "It is not for you to know the times or the seasons. However, the truth is, if you are looking for a sign of the end." Jesus explained the 4 signs that will happen before the second coming of Christ. Only God could give us the beginning and the end. We, as God's people, are the only ones who know how the story of this world will finish. That is something special. God did not show the future to his people just to make them curious. He showed it so we would be ready and not shocked when it happens. He also wanted us to understand it the right way. We should thank Jesus for being clear about the future. People often ask, are we in the end times? The Bible talks about the last days. The truth is, we have been living in the last days for 2,000 years already. The last days began at Pentecost, when the first prophecy about them was fulfilled. Every Christian generation is told to live ready for Jesus' return. But being ready does not mean setting a date or trying to guess the exact time. The Bible is full of prophecies. Inside it, there are 735 predictions about the future. That means 1 out of every 4 chapters talks about prophecy. From start to finish, the Bible is a book that tells the future. Some books have more prophecy than others, but it runs through the whole Bible. Out of those 735 prophecies, 596 have already come true, exactly as the Bible said. That means 81% of Bible prophecy has already been fulfilled. And many of these came true hundreds of years after they were written. With that track record, it's easy to believe the other 19% will come true as well. The Bible has been 100% right with everything that could have already happened. The remaining prophecies mostly deal with the return of Jesus and what comes after. So how many prophecies are left before Jesus comes back? About 20. We are waiting to see those fulfilled before his return. That is why Jesus told us to watch and pray. But what do we watch for? It does not mean standing outside and staring at the sky. That is not what Jesus meant. He meant we must pay attention to what is happening in the world and compare it to the signs he gave us. The signs are signals. In Matthew 24, the disciples asked Jesus, "What will be the signs of your return?" They wanted to know what to look for. Jesus gave them a direct answer. We should thank God that he made it so clear. In Revelation, the answer is even longer and more detailed. But in Matthew 24, Jesus gave his disciples the basic list of signs that would come before his return. The disciples asked Jesus about this while he was sitting on the Mount of Olives. Matthew 24, 3-36. Later, Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives. His disciples came to him privately and said, "Tell us, when will all this happen? What sign will signal your return and the end of the world?" Jesus told them, "Don't let anyone mislead you, for many will come in my name, claiming, 'I am the Messiah.' They will deceive many, and you will hear of wars and threats of wars. But don't panic. Yes, these things must take place, but the end won't follow immediately. Nation will go to war against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines and earthquakes in many parts of the world. But all this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. Then you will be arrested, persecuted, and killed. You will be hated all over the world because you are my followers, and many will turn away from me and betray and hate each other. And many false prophets will appear and will deceive many people. Sin will be rampant everywhere, and the love of many will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. And the good news about the kingdom will be preached throughout the whole world, so that all nations will hear it. And then the end will come. The day is coming when you will see what Daniel the prophet spoke about, the sacrilegious object that causes desecration standing in the holy place. Reader, pay attention. Then those in Judea must flee to the hills. A person out on the deck of a roof must not go down into the house to pack. A person out in the field must not return even to get a coat. How terrible it will be for pregnant women and for nursing mothers in those days. And pray that your flight will not be in winter or on the Sabbath. For there will be greater anguish than at any time since the world began. And it will never be so great again. In fact, unless that time of calamity is shortened, not a single person will survive. But it will be shortened for the sake of God's chosen ones. Then, if anyone tells you, "Look, here is the Messiah," or "There he is," don't believe it. For false messiahs and false prophets will rise up and perform great signs and wonders so as to deceive, if possible, even God's chosen ones. See, I have warned you about this ahead of time. So, if someone tells you, "Look, the Messiah is out in the desert," don't bother to go and look. Or, "Look, he is hiding here," don't believe it. For as the lightning flashes in the east and shines to the west, so it will be when the Son of Man comes. Just as the gathering of vultures shows there is a carcass nearby, so these signs indicate that the end is near. Immediately after the anguish of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will give no light, the stars will fall from the sky, and the powers in the heavens will be shaken. And then, at last, the sign that the Son of Man is coming will appear in the heavens, and there will be deep mourning among all the peoples of the earth. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send out his angels with the mighty blast of a trumpet. And they will gather his chosen ones from all over the world, from the farthest ends of the earth and heaven. Now, learn a lesson from the fig tree. When its branches bud and its leaves begin to sprout, you know that summer is near. In the same way, when you see all these things, you can know his return is very near, right at the door. I tell you the truth, this generation will not pass from the scene until all these things take place. Heaven and earth will disappear, but my words will never disappear. However, no one knows the day or hour when these things will happen, not even the angels in heaven or the Son himself. Only the Father knows. In that passage, Jesus gave 4 clear signs of his coming. One of them is already happening. The other 3 have not yet. That is why I say, we are in the beginning of the end times. So, what are the 4 signs he gave us? The first sign is disasters in the world. Jesus spoke of wars, famines, and earthquakes. These things have been happening for thousands of years, but they are getting stronger and more frequent. That means we are already in the first sign: wars, threats of war, earthquakes, and famine. But Jesus warned, don't be deceived. He repeats that warning over and over. The closer we get to the end, the more dangerous deception will become, both outside and inside the church. He said false Christs and false saviors will rise up, using disasters and fear to trick people into following them. Many examples of false saviors exist in history, leading people into destruction. The more problems the world has, the more false deliverers appear. But Jesus told us, don't be alarmed. These things are not signs of death. They are birth pains. When you hear of disasters, remember, they are the labor pains of a new world being born. This changes how we see everything. While the world panics, we look with hope. We feel compassion for those who suffer, but in our hearts, we trust God. These disasters mean Jesus is closer. That is why Jesus' message is, don't panic, don't lose heart. Rejoice, because these are signs of new life coming. The second sign. The second sign is not in the world, but in the church. The first sign was disasters in the world. The second sign is changes in the church. Jesus divided this second sign into 3 parts. First, there will be persecution. Christians will be hated in every nation. Second, many believers will fall away. Jesus said most people's love will grow cold. When persecution gets heavy, many who only claim to be Christians will walk away. That sounds dark, but then comes the third part. The gospel will be preached to every nation. Even though the church will shrink in size, the purified church will shine brighter and reach farther. At the same time, false prophets will rise up. They will preach comfort instead of truth. They will say, "It's all right. Everything will be fine," when it isn't. Many people will follow these lies, and it will cause even more to fall away. But Jesus' advice is simple. The one who endures to the end will be saved. This is natural, because as wheat and weeds grow together, the closer they get to harvest, the more tension builds. In the same way, as Christians grow in holiness, the world's hatred will grow. Jesus said in John 15:19, "If you were of the world, it would love you as its own. Instead, the world hates you, because you are not of the world, but I have chosen you out of the world." It's not easy to be hated, but it will happen. The third sign. The third sign is trouble in Jerusalem. Jesus pointed to Daniel's prophecy about the abomination of desolation. Daniel wrote about it 3 times. This will be a man who sets himself up in God's city, in the holy place, and claims to be God. He will not accept anyone's authority above his own. He will be a tyrant, centered in Jerusalem, whose actions affect the whole world. The fourth sign. Then comes the fourth sign, which happens right after Jerusalem's distress. When this sign comes, no one will be able to deny it. There will be no more false prophets or false messiahs. The sun will go dark. The moon will stop shining. The stars will fall. Isaiah prophesied, "The heavens will be rolled up like a carpet." When this happens, Everyone will know the end has come, and Jesus will return in power and glory. All the stars of heaven will be taken away. The skies will be rolled up like a scroll, and all their stars will fall like dead leaves from the vine, like leaves dropping from the fig tree. The natural light will vanish, and only artificial light will shine on the earth. What is happening? What is going on? People will ask. This is it. Christians will cry out. The sun, moon, and stars will stop shining right before that moment. God will turn off the lights of heaven to prepare for the blazing light of lightning that shows his return. Then he will come on the clouds back to earth, and we will meet him. We are not gathering in some stadium because there is no stadium big enough for such a crowd. We will meet him in the air, and that will be enough. What a wonderful promise that is. When you see all these things, you know he is at the gates, just about to walk through, he says. Then Jesus gives a very simple lesson about a fig tree. And this is where many have been confused. He says, "Now learn this lesson from the fig tree. As soon as its twigs get tender and its leaves come out, you know that summer is near." Jesus is saying that when you notice all these events, you will know we are close. The fig tree example is not a mystery story or hidden code. It is simple. Jesus often used lessons like this. You see the fig tree put out leaves, you know summer is near. In the same way, when you see these 4 signs, you know his coming is close. Sadly, people have twisted it into something else. When the Son of Man returns, it will be like it was in Noah's day. In those days before the flood, the people were enjoying banquets and parties and weddings right up to the time Noah entered his boat. People didn't realize what was going to happen until the flood came and swept them all away. That is the way it will be when the Son of Man comes. 2 men will be working together in the field. One will be taken, the other left. 2 women will be grinding flour at the mill. One will be taken, the other left. So you too must keep watch, for you don't know what day your Lord is coming. Understand this: if a homeowner knew exactly when a burglar was coming, he would keep watch and not permit his house to be broken into. You also must be ready all the time, for the Son of Man will come when least expected. A faithful, sensible servant is one to whom the master can give the responsibility of managing his other household servants and feeding them. If the master returns and finds that the servant has done a good job, there will be a reward. I tell you the truth, the master will put that servant in charge of all he owns. But what if the servant is evil and thinks, "My master won't be back for a while," and he begins beating the other servants, partying, and getting drunk? The master will return unannounced and unexpected, and he will cut the servant to pieces and assign him a place with the hypocrites. In that place, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Matthew 24:37-51. After this, Jesus went into 3 parables. One was about the wise virgins, whose lamps were still burning when the bridegroom came. The foolish ones had let their lamps go out. They left to try and get more oil, but they missed the bridegroom's arrival and could not join the wedding. Then Jesus told about the parable of the talents. Some were given 10 talents, others 5, and one man just 1. The master left and came back later asking, "Now, what have you done with the talents I left with you?" The man with 10 said, "I gained 10 more." The man with 5 said, "I gained 5 more." But the man with 1 said, "I did nothing. I buried it. I know you are a hard man who reaps where he hasn't sown and demands what is not yours." What a terrible reply. We see what Jesus said and what the master said to him after that. The last picture is not a parable, but a prophecy about sheep and goats. Jesus said he will divide all nations. He explained why. Those on his left had ignored Christ and his people. Because they had not helped the least of his brethren, they had not helped him. To those on his right, he said, "You saw Christ in my brethren, and inasmuch as you did it to the least of these, my brethren, you did it to me." He was not dividing between people who gave to charity and those who did not. The key is the word brethren. Jesus always used this word for his own followers. He once said, "Go and tell my brethren that I have risen from the dead." Brethren means his people. Jesus is teaching that whatever was done or not done for Christians was really done to him or not done for him. Their attitude to Christ is revealed by their attitude to his followers. That is the basis of his judgment. Now notice this. No one has God's diary. Not even Jesus knew the day of his return. No angel knew it. No man knew it. We should not claim to know the exact date. But when the time comes near and we watch the signs, we will know. Mark 13:32. No one knows about that day or hour, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Did you see that one phrase shows up in all three parables? In the parable of the home, the master was a long time returning. In the parable of the virgins, the bridegroom was a long time coming. In the parable of the talents, the master was gone for a long time. Jesus is looking for your faithfulness during the long wait. That is what he wants. He will say, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Enter into the joy of your Lord." There will be a great dividing line. The faithful will be those who stayed on the job, who remembered every day that he is coming back, who held on through pain, and who served him well. But those who gave up because he delayed, those who let their lamps go out, who no longer shined for Jesus, and who buried their talents, they will not be counted faithful.
Many seem to be confused because they do not understand the book of Revelation. However, what if there was an animation showing the entire book? Well, we created that. And to watch that, click here.